I was on pins and needles to find out how Jack and Mel were going to deal with the pregnancy. Mark and Jack look very different, so I feel like at some point you'd kind of figure it out.
One's going to have long flowing hair, right? And you'll know just by the hair alone.
Hey, I'm Alexandra Breckenridge, and this is Entertainment Weekly's Around the Table with the cast of Virgin River.
I sold my house, and then I quit my job. And I moved to this town that I've never heard of, just so I could live in there.
Oh, no.
As the mayor of Virgin River, I'd like to officially welcome you to our little slice of heaven.
I obviously can't stay here.
I'll have it cleaned.
Did you just put is that a bird's nest from the oven?
You know, there was a lot hanging on that cliff at the end of 3. I was curious to find out who shot me. You know, I was excited to see when and how that information was going to be divulged.
It was kind of an overwhelming number of cliffhangers. I feel like every time I watch a season after we've shot it, I sort of become an audience member. So I was desperate to know, like, was Hope gonna make it through? Yeah, who's Charmaine's actual baby daddy? You know, how's Jack gonna take the news? Did Brady do it?
I get so confused every time because we'll end up shooting. We shoot season 4 while season 3 is airing. And then I get confused as to what's happened because we're filming the next season. So my mind is in that. And then I'm like, well, Hope's fine. You know.
For Doc, what was going on at the end of 3, I think, was Hope certainly is doing better. But, the question is what's going to happen with her traumatic brain injury, and also how's that going to affect their relationship. And also that he's getting to know his grandson, and where's that going to go, and what is the nature of their relationship. And it's almost like a new beginning for someone when you find out you've had offspring, and it was sort of a rebirth for him.
Preacher was left in the woods. I was left in the woods for dead. So season 4, surprise, still here. I don't know if that's a spoiler or not. So I guess a spoiler in itself, right? But yeah, I think with Preacher, we just want to find out what was the cause of that situation and who was involved in it, and what answers will be revealed.
I think the biggest cliffhanger for me was, Brady wears a lot of black on the show, and to see him in orange, like what that would do to his complexion, and how I would let that influence my character. And that was really all that was it. That was the only thing. I was like, what is orange going to do to me?
You're actually being serious, though, are you?
I am. No, actually, no. The other thing was like, is Netflix doing a new Orange is the New Black, and am I voting? That was also answered with a no. Both answers were no, by the way. Spoiler alert. I don't look good.
You look good in orange. Come on.
I guess it's because of the traumatic brain injury. I couldn't really expect much. It's like I didn't know. I'm in a hospital, so I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't look at it that way. I'm just happy to be at work after season 3, which was so kind of horrible and strange. Not to be part of it was so weird that I was just glad to be back at all. For people, I think the show has become such a huge balm for people at this time. I think it would have always been a wonderful, accepted show, but the fact that it came along when it did, I can't tell you the people who, and I know each one of you must have the same reaction when people come up to you and just are so grateful for the show.
The craziest thing about season 3 was that we were finishing up season 3 in this COVID world, and no vaccines yet, and the cast was together, and we took the tremendous precautions. Right at the end, I think the last few days of shooting, we were premiering worldwide on Netflix, and we're the #1 show in many, if not all, of the countries around the world. And it was like we were all together to experience that together and share that joy that, wow, look at that, these people really, really like us, and it was great that it happened. It was great, even greater for us to all be together to share that with the cast and crew. And it was a big surprise because oftentimes with streaming, you don't know. They don't quite release all the numbers.
I'm pregnant, and I don't know who the father is. We can resolve the issue using a non-invasive paternity test.
I can't do that right now.
Why not?
Because if we find out that Mark's the father, it could change how I feel about our baby.
I was on pins and needles to find out how Jack and Mel were going to deal with the pregnancy.
That's a cliffhanger.
That was a cliffhanger about the cliffhanger.
I was really interested to see how Jack was going to react to the fact that it may or may not be his child, but I was pleasantly surprised with his upbeat attitude toward the whole thing. I'm not a patient person, so when I had my own children, I immediately found out what the sex was of both of my babies as soon as humanly possible. So if I had been faced with any kind of paternity question, I mean, I can't imagine just having that be something massively unanswered in my life. I feel like Mark and Jack look very different, so I feel like at some point you'd kind of figure it out.
One's going to have long flowing hair, right? And you'll know just by the hair alone.
It'll be the dimples.
Yeah, the dimples.
The dimples. That'll be
the charm. It'll be charming coming right out of the womb.
Weird. Yeah, I think. Look, I agree with Alex. I don't know if my curiosity could stand not knowing, but I think it was a really interesting take that the writers chose, where they gave Jack this perspective of, okay, I'm going to be the father to this woman I love's child, but it may not be my own. And I think, like Jack says, and halfway through the season, one would assume you would have the same relationship to that child. There is sort of a selfishness to people too, and this idea that, well, if it's not mine, will I have the same degree of connection to this child? And we know from people who have adopted kids, which creates the conflict between Jack and Mel in terms of their desire to know and stuff, that actually you can love a child just as much, and actually biology isn't the defining factor of love. However, I think it was interesting that Jack, as a man who doesn't know that from experience, has doubts. So it was an interesting sort of ride that they then go along and trying to navigate that and be respectful to one another's individual take on it, and then all the drama that ensues from it. But yeah, I think I would want to know straight away. I really wish we got to shoot the scenes where you actually see Jack react to the news, because that's an interesting day where the woman you're with tells you that she's carrying a child. That might be another dude. Just to see a man deal with that would have been really fascinating to play. But I'm sure he quickly understood Mel's reason, and he was part of the reason for her decision. But anyway, we don't need to unpack that too much.
It was fantastic. I loved coming back and having a lot to do, and something that was that organic, and that that I could play within the bounds of what it is, because a brain injury is unique to each person, and there's just so much you could do with it, and so it can't be all just about that. It has to be seeing bits of the light at the end of the tunnel, so it was just interesting. Each scene was different. Each person I was dealing with was different, and when things would hit her, and I could kind of do it from the inside. It's like, okay, I'll just have a massive headache. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, but you did such a nice job, Annette. I mean, it was tragic to see the way you brought that vulnerability to a character that's used to being so in control of everything and trying to navigate a new terrain where she just didn't even know herself, and that sense of being lost in her own mind, and then how that impacted her relationships while still retaining that lovely, acerbic wit and humor that still
Thank you, Martin. That's really
it's
sweet.
It's great. I think
that's very sweet of you to say. It is interesting to see a person you think this person, and then you see her thrown into a different situation and how she deals with it. And it was just really, as an actress, it was really fun to do.
The new nurse?
I don't need you.
Well, I signed a contract.
No, not with me, you didn't.
You are a stubborn goat. Maybe I should just go.
Generally speaking, the complexity of the situation is that both Mel and Doc know everybody they're treating pretty much. They have a relation, not all, sometimes there are people just coming through, but that sort of adds to the difficulty of treating them. And I find that to be one of the most interesting aspects of Virgin River for from the medical point of view is that you also have your personal feelings towards the patient, and yet you also have to be removed and be a doctor or a nurse practitioner and dealing with that.
Keep yourself separate and professional. Yeah. You know what? I have to say, I live in a small town, and I find that there are maybe not as many medical emergencies as in Virgin River, but there sure are a lot of medical need from, the 600 odd people that live in the town I live in. And we were just discussing how our town needs some kind of, we don't have a doctor on call. So the doctors that do live in our town, we were talking about doing a collective so that somebody would be on call for the small town.
Do you feel tempted to kind of put your hand up? Do you ever feel like you're qualified now? Or does anybody nominate you from the town?
I play one on TV.
Do you guys ever get those medical? I've done a couple of medical things, and you get those words that just, you're like, oh no, oh, how am I going to remember this word and make it sound natural and hit my mark? And do you ever get like that stuff? I hated those technical terms so much.
The only way to get through those is like to say them a billion times the moment you have them, so that you're not thinking of it in the moment. Like the first pilot of Code Black that I did, had this big long thing, and I was like, okay, well, just make sure when I get to set, I asked the doctor how to say it properly, and I like Googled it and everything, and I got to set, and he's like, so it's this, and I don't even know how to say it now. And we did like 25 takes, and of course I did a thing in ADR where I was like
I think in the first season, I was like, I can't say that. And so they started giving all of that to Tim.
That's it. Fail miserably, and then you'll never have to do it again.
I need you to see something the PI sent.
Brady didn't shoot him. We gotta get him out of there.
Take me higher with all the love you give. Make my heart start tingling.
You have wanted a baby for so long.
You got to work out your issues, find out what's going on up here. Preacher's character has very strong feelings for Paige. As you saw in previous episodes, he's done some questionable things to keep her safe. And, he's got quite the moral compass. But as I said, he crossed the line for her safety. He tends to be a character, I feel, that is loyal to a fault. Where that will take him in the future is yet to be seen.
Doc hired a very attractive doctor to fill in at the clinic.
It's about time you got a bit of competition there, mister.
Your dad just checked into the B&B?
My job was to make sure you didn't ruin your life.
If I can't have a relationship with my own father, then what kind of a dad am I going to be?
Cameron, Dr. Hyatt comes to Virgin River. I'm still actually unclear on whether or not he's sort of set up and poised to take over the practice if in case Doc can't work anymore. Tim can probably further answer those questions. He probably knows better than I do. But yes, he comes to town. He's, charming and attractive. And I think the audience might worry that that might pose a threat to the Mel and Jack of it all. But Mel's very loyal, so I wouldn't really worry about that too much.
Yeah, I'm just saying, especially regarding Cameron, nobody can replace Mel, and I think that he's in a very tough spot. And, I think it's one of those things too, you think, oh, well, it'd be great if I can get away from this a little bit more and more, and let somebody else take it over. And then after you step back a little bit, it's sort of like, well, maybe not, maybe it's not such a great thing. I'll stop by the office and I'll stop at the clinic. So I think there's that kind of conflict going on. And I also think Doc has very strong feelings about the improper way that Cameron reacted towards Mel and causing a little bit of trouble for Jack. And just he went someplace where he shouldn't have gone, in my opinion. He'll have to overcome that before I buy him lunch.
I know eventually there's this really handsome detective that's been spending way too much time with Brady's girlfriend. So inevitably, I imagine that season 4 is going to have some questions about what is Brie's direction, and obviously things get heated. Brady is in jail and does wear orange, and he has to navigate that balance between obligations of people kind of that he needs to protect, and then the honesty and kind of being standing up and being a man to Brie in a way that is not what culture really understands as being a man. It's more about supporting and less about going out, and we don't see Brady take vengeance. We don't see Brady actively protect Brie. He does it passively in regards to a number of threats that eventually arise for Zibby's character. And so I thought that was interesting because I would naturally think that Brady is the kind of character that would go out and take action. But in a way, he was taking action by being passive and listening and supporting Zibby and supporting Brie's character in the whole process of her dealing with her grief.
Yeah, it's interesting because Brie and Brady are so different. And part of what was kind of steamy about them, again, like if I were just sort of like the viewer, which I always am at the end, because I sort of forget what the whole show is, like what Alex was saying. So watching it, I was like, dang, those two have chemistry. Even my husband said it. And part of their chemistry is that they're so different. They come from such different walks of life. And Brie needs something. You know what I mean? She needs to reclaim her sort of her sense of self and sexual power again, and they have this very steamy thing, but the question is, can it last? Is it sustainable? Does it make sense long term? As she starts to come to terms with like her own PTSD, with what she's running from, and as Brady's sort of trying to get out of the bad boy criminal world. And I think that question really comes alive in season 4, and in a way I'm rooting for them, but I think they have a lot of work to get there to be like a pair that's sustainable. And I think that's the big question. And I think they walk that line. And yeah, it's interesting. When it gets real, it's like hot for a second, but like, can you like day to day do the thing? And I wonder about that for them.
I think you can tease this. I think season 4, it's more than just Calvin that kind of threatens not only Brady, but the people he cares about. And he's juggling that with, a continued strained relationship with, Jack and he's really dealing with it alone. Brady's always kind of been an outsider in Virgin River, and we don't really see him interact with a lot of the other characters. I'm friends and love all these people on the screen, but we don't get a lot of scene time together. It's mostly Calvin and Brady, or it's Brie and Brady, and I think the way he deals with it is kind of like that. He tries to keep it to himself, and he tries to handle things himself, and time will tell this season whether or not he's successful with it, or whether or not it's a bigger threat than he himself can deal with, and maybe he gets a little help from his girlfriend.
If it bothers you that much, then I'll stop drinking.
I don't want you to do this for me. I want you to do it for you.
Everything I do is for us, okay?
I think I need some space to clear my head.
Don't give up on it.
It got colder and colder and colder as we shot. We shot into the winter up here in Canada, and it got rainier and colder and darker early. It would be like 3 o'clock, and people were like, "We're losing light," because it gets so dark up here in the winter time.
Yeah, but
early.
Nothing eclipses season 1 though.
Oh yeah.
We started in December, season 1.
Oh, did you actually film in the snow? Did you actually not film a scene when it actually started snowing? They had to work that into
Calvin's cave, right?
That was rough.
Hot
madly rereading.
Whenever, because it was several feet of snow, right? I mean, it was like no way you're going to go out and melt this stuff.
Preacher he invested a lot of time into caring for Paige's son during her absence, but truly he didn't know what the future held he took a swing at, I don't want to say romance, but he took a swing at potential relationship. How that turns out, I can't say. Paige coming back into the picture, does she? Can't say. But if she was to, that would put Preacher in a bit of a pickle as to where he wants to go with his future. Preacher's looking for love. Preacher wants a relationship. Preacher wants to be happy, and I think the audience wants Preacher to be happy. He's been through a lot. He's been knocked out. He's been left in the woods, taking care of children and whatnot. So yeah, I think the audience just wants Preacher to find his happiness. Yeah. And
here.
Will it be this season? I don't know. You can only flip so many birders, Jack.
Colin, you are badass in this season. Like, you go full Marine in a sense. Like, it's nice to see you really kind of pull out the I'm not messing around. And if this is a spoiler alert, I think I can say that the log, the firewood smash at the end is my favorite part. It's like out of nowhere, just completely KOs him. And it was fun to see you embrace that side.
Is there something going on with you guys? You're going blind?
In a word, maybe. I don't know what I would have done if something would have happened to him. Maybe he should be with someone else.
I think it's really cool. The show, it's about of course it's about romance, but a lot of what I think appeals to people is this idea that all these people are broken, right? Everyone's got a past, everyone's got trauma, everyone's got something that they're trying to deal with, and it's coming out awkwardly in the present moment. It's challenging their relationships or their ability to do their job well, or whatever it is. They need to heal from these wounds, and they do that by leaning on one another, and voicing their darker tragedy and coming to terms with it. And I think it's really cool to play characters. And I think we all have that responsibility, right? That we all have the stuff that the characters are dealing with, whether it's Doc's, aging and how that's going to affect him, and Hope's recovery, and Mal's traumatic past, and Brie. Like, we all have something that we're trying to heal from, and I think it's lovely to play characters that are doing that on screen, and we're not just seeing heroes and people saving the day. They're also carrying these deep wounds, and they need each other, and their relationships are the lens through which we as the audience get to see them grapple with their demons and their hurts and the things that make them human and make them vulnerable. And so, yeah, I mean, I wish it wasn't so, though. Some days, like, I don't want to go there to answer your question. It's like, yeah, you have to kind of access your own pain, and the things that are that you've dealt with or are dealing with. And but it's also nice to be, I think, putting that out there for the audience, because everybody's dealing with something. Everybody.
There were several different possibilities for the outcome, and I was advocating strongly that it was Jack's baby, because I felt that I was just like, gosh, how horrible would that be if he's having twins with Charmaine, and then the love of his life is having a baby from her dead husband. Like, this is awful. He's like, this sounds terrible. But then by the end of the season, of course, we find out that Charmaine's babies are not actually Jack's anyway. So then I thought, well, that would be even worse. He's just literally having no children. He thought he was having 3 children, now he's having no children. I was really, really happy about the outcome, that it is in fact Jack's baby. I think the two of them want that life together so much. It's so powerful and strong between them that if it was Mark's, it kind of just felt like it was the past coming up again. And they would have dealt with that. I don't know how they would have dealt with that. Martin, how do you think they would have dealt with that? I think that Jack's character would have had a more difficult time that's a hard question for me to answer. What I look forward to in a new season for the character. I always want to find out more about the characters that I play, why they are the way that they are. So I hope to explore a little bit more about that. I don't feel like I was able to explore enough of that as an actor in season 4. So I'm hoping to dig a little bit deeper into Mel this year.
I have I really hope that Brady moves on now that he's exonerated from shooting Jack. We all know Brady's a good shot, so if he really was trying to shoot Jack, he wouldn't have shot him in the leg. I'm really excited to have Brady be out of that cloud and hopefully rejoin the community of Virgin River. I mentioned earlier just how much he lives on the fringe, and I think this might be an opportunity for him to move away from that fringe and that that antagonist cloud that he kind of lives under, and repair relationships. He is dating Jack's sister, and so inevitably that's going to come to a head at some point, and whether I would love to see that relationship have more meaning and explore maybe an apology or some sort of resolution to the conflict, and then go beyond that.
I don't hope for anything except I'm very happy for the employment and for these wonderful actors and the crew we get to work with. That's all I hope, is just that we keep telling the story as long as it's good, and everything we're talking about keeps happening, and the relationships. I love what Martin said about how we're all a bit broken in weird ways. And I thought that's really true. And but that's life. So I just think that what I said at the beginning about this show being sort of this nice, wonderful place people can go, I just want to keep doing it.
One of the things that Doc is going through, is with Hope and with Denny and with his patience and with Cameron is to try and find the balance in life, which is what we're all striving for to some degree, more or less. And I think it's an interesting world to be in, to try and find sort of a balance between work and family and love and just enjoy it more. And I think that's sort of the driving force for me in this coming season, I hope, and just connecting with Hope and connecting with more and more of the people, especially with Mel, because there's things that get in the way of our relationship, and he wants to regain that, and I want her in my life and in my clinic. So selfishly, I'm not going to let you get out of this too easily.
My hope for Brie for season 5 is that, she starts to, yes, heal, as that's been like a recurring theme throughout this, is like we watch these characters strive toward healing by relying on one another. And I think there was a line that Brie had or Jack had in season 3 where they were joking about like being independent to the very end, Sheridans. And I think that that's a wonderful quality and also a burdensome quality in both of them. And I hope that Brie and Jack can start to heal themselves through rekindling their family ties together, and maybe drawing some connections between how they came up and how they were raised, and the belief systems that they inherited that have maybe been prohibitive to them moving forward and allowing themselves to be more vulnerable and rely on the good people of Virgin River instead of being ones to just handle it all. It's funny because people always say about Virgin River, oh, it's so edible, it's such a comfort show, and yet here we are talking about all of the drama. But I think the people of Virgin River, what they do well is community, and we all really, really want that. And I think that's why it is so comforting, and we can afford to have so much heaviness. It's interesting.
So this has been Entertainment Weekly's Round the Table with the cast of Virgin River. Season 4 hits Netflix July 20th.